band One Republic is known for hits like Good Life and Apologize. Well, they're out with a new single, Feel Again, which benefits a very awesome organization called Save the Children. Band member Ryan Tedder joins us in the studio, and Mary Beth Powers joins us from Westport, Connecticut. Mary is the Save the Children's Child Survival Campaign Director and a newborn and children's survival. Will you tell me what your exact title is?
I'm the Newborn and Child Survival Campaign Director.
There we go. Thank you so much, Mary Beth. And I want to start, if you don't mind, Ryan, by talking a little about Save the Children. I think one of the reasons that I was like, okay, what is your exact title, is that when I look at the Save the Children campaign, when I look at what you guys do, for example, I just pulled up the program areas page on the Save the Children website. I am so blown away by the amount of impact that this one organization has. Your bandwidth is astonishing. It's so impressive, all of the different things that you guys focus on: child protection, education and child development, health and nutrition, HIV/AIDS, livelihoods, U.S. programs and abroad. I'd love to hear a little bit more about Save the Children.
Great. Well, I mean, we really are the leading international non-governmental organization focused solely on children, and that work extends in the United States with American kids. But the work I've been really focused on is this work to make sure that every child has access to very basic health care, things we just take for granted in this country, that our children would never die from diarrhea or pneumonia. But we're losing millions of children around the world to these simple killers.
Sure, sure. And Ryan, you and One Republic got involved, and the new single, Feel Again, benefits Save the Children.
Yes, so people go to everybeatmatters.org, or on iTunes, actually. It took a lot of kind of shifting red tape in the music industry with our label and everybody else, but if you download the single, it actually goes directly. All of it goes directly to Save the Children.
Oh,
and you've
so
got,
great.
you've got... they've been doing this for 90 years. I mean, as she said, they're the largest child relief organization. And the fact that something that, I have a kid who's 2 years old, and if he got, some type of stomach virus to give him diarrhea or pneumonia, I could go down to CVS, Walgreens.
So easy, right, to deal
$5
with.
and save his life.
And yet we still, middle-class Americans still worry about this, even a sniffle and a cough with a child. So imagining being in an environment where that could mean life or death.
Literally. Yeah.
Literally, absolutely. Yeah. I actually want to pull up this this PSA and play a little bit of it for you guys.
Jangan aku gitu.
This song was created with heartbeats of children in need. Find out how it can help frontline health workers bring hope to millions of children at everybeatmatters.org.
Okay, awesome. So in a situation like this, how did this come together for you? I mean, I know you were talking about having a 2-year-old, but is that something where you were familiar with the organization before and saw an opportunity, or did someone reach out to you and say, listen, there's a really great way for you guys to combine your efforts?
I was definitely familiar with Save the Children. Obviously, I know a lot more now than I did beforehand, but for about 5 years as a band, we've been looking doggedly to find an organization that we can actually back. We didn't want to be one of those artists that just comes out and becomes this bleeding heart, like, I'm going to save the world and I have opinions on politics and I have opinions on healthcare. We wanted to find something we connected with. When we actually read the stats of Save the Children, we were blown away. We knew that they needed a campaign song, and it was just this weird confluence of events, like just serendipity, I guess you could say, because right around the same time we were going to be launching a new album and a new single, happened to be within, I think, 7 days of when they needed to launch their campaign.
Oh, wow.
And so one day I was sitting in the studio and I was like, we had a start of a song, just a vibe, kind of like 60 seconds of just music.
Right.
And I thought, this feels like the first thing I want people to hear from us. And they sent us these heartbeats from these kids in Malawi and in Guatemala. They happened to be, 2 or 3 of them were the same tempo as this bed of music.
Oh my gosh, it's all so serendipitous.
And so it is serendipitous. And so the whole thing came together, and I called my manager and was like, when is the campaign starting? He's like, 1st of September. When is our first single supposed to come out? He's like, 1st of September. I was like, there you go. So yeah.
That's fantastic.
And the lyrics for the song, a number of the lyrics were inspired directly by the actual campaign itself. I mean, there's a line that says, the second verse says, 100,000 voices that just can't sing, and that's the 100,000 kids every week that die from preventable diseases.
Yeah. That is an extraordinary story. I love that worked out the way it did. That's so amazing.
Yeah, lightning in a bottle, basically.
Lightning in a bottle, indeed. Mary Beth, is there anything you can tell us? I'm just trying to think of ways to kind of get people more acquainted with the organization. Is there anything? What would surprise people to learn about something happening to a child somewhere? You touched on it a little bit before, but I'm sure there's a myriad of things. So.
Sure. I mean, one thing that I think for Save the Children and this campaign and what Ryan's really talking about is these frontline health workers. That man that you saw in the video, Chisomo, he agreed to be trained so that he could help his community get healthier. And I think a lot of times people feel like this is an insurmountable problem. It's always been with us. It will always be with us. But the truth is child deaths are declining every year. And a really important reason for that is not just the medicines, but it's because there are those people in the community who are there day in and day out. I mean, Chisomo walks around his village. He rides his bike around his village, but also people come to his house in the middle of the night with sick children. And all of us have to have somebody there when our kid gets sick. I have 4 kids of my own. God knows I've been, on the doorstep of pediatricians, friends who are nurses, other people when I needed help and advice with my kids. And it's just critical that there are health workers around the world who are really my unsung heroes. I mean, I've been at this for 17 years with Save the Children, but having Ryan and One Republic really help convince people that we don't have to sit by and take this. This is something that, let's shake ourselves out of the apathy and think this is, a problem that's insurmountable. It is changing. The reality for these kids around the world, once they get a health worker equipped, trained, and supported, they can make a huge difference in these kids' lives.
And you were also talking about the U.S., the U.S. programs, and that's something that is a major component as well. So I think also it's nice to talk about what's happening close to home, because sometimes we think these things are just happening to other people in other places, which isn't to say that's of any less value. Of course it is. But can you speak to the U.S. side a little bit?
Yeah, a lot of Save the Children's programs in the United States focus on the biggest health threat to American youth, which now in that school-age children really is childhood obesity. So preventing childhood obesity, working with American kids and with schools all across the United States to try and get kids to be more active, to choose healthier foods, that's absolutely critical to preventing early onset of diabetes and other problems that are facing American kids today.
Wow. I don't even know how to react to the idea that one of the largest threats is childhood obesity.
Well, it's kind of crazy because did you watch the Jamie Oliver special that he did for a while?
Yeah.
So I watched
There's
that
so much talk about that now.
Yeah, it was absolutely remarkable. And what's kind of interesting to me is in so many countries around the world, we're saying, here's some food, get nourishment, and then here we're saying, please stop eating so much.
Eat properly,
eat less.
Educating families so that they know. And making sure that people have access to the right kinds of food and to have that relationship with eating that, is so important and necessary for our health and well-being, but I think falls by the wayside, particularly in the United States when we have this abundance. Isn't always a good thing. And then I also wanted to turn back to the newborn side, because when you were talking about having a 2-year-old, and we were just even talking about how, a toddler having a sneeze or a cough is an issue. Obviously, I'm sure prenatal care and newborn infants in other countries, et cetera. What's going on there, and what's being done about it by your organization?
Yeah, that's a great point. Actually, for the last 10 years, Save the Children's been a leader in newborn care, really with a major investment from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, uncovering what can be done in low resource settings to save newborns. Something as simple as low birth weight babies could be kangarooed, which means wrapped in the mother's clothes. That's a critical way to save low birth weight babies, especially where incubators are not available. So it's simple things we've learned, and it is once we solve some of the problems of older kids, more and more of the death is concentrated in that first month of life. And the interesting thing about neonatal mortality, or those deaths in the first month of life, is that's a problem in this country and it's a problem globally. So we have to focus more attention, and the U.S. government and others are really focused on that.
What are some of the other ways that you get your message out, aside from the wonder of One Republic and that fantastic Nicole?
Yeah, I'd have to say the Wonder of One Republic is one of the best
I'm
ways
asking
that
you to
we've
beat it.
ever had to tell the story.
Right.
But
more do you
otherwise,
need?
we're
What more do
also
you
we have a
need?
website, so everybeatmatters.org, which tells the story. It has some of these frontline health workers that you can see. You can tell their stories or hear about their stories. We're also helping Americans think about how health workers make a difference in their own lives. So it's really critical to go to the website to learn more, to let policymakers know this is important to Americans. Often people don't think that Americans care about these challenges that face our kids and kids around the world. So that's something else that you can do at the Save the Children website.
Awesome. Everything about that is fantastic. You guys will have access to that and the resources as well. Ryan, are you going out on tour?
Yes.
And does the tour involve more activity with Save the Children?
We're definitely going to be talking with them about a way to continue the shared love experience throughout the course of our album cycle. But we have an album right now, I think, slated for November 19th. And so we're cramming to finish all that up. But it's interesting because, with your first single coming out, it's this juxtaposition of wanting to, be out and help promote that and push that, but also you have to be back working and recording. And we're doing the iTunes Festival in London next week, and then recording in Greece a little bit, and Paris, and just kind of hopping around, and then back to Denver and finishing the album. And we will be doing a tour probably, I would say, in the spring, and then the goal is to do kind of worldwide next late spring, summer.
Had you done a lot of traveling before you started touring with a band and stuff?
I had done a fair amount. My aunts and uncles, I have a bunch of missionaries for aunts and uncles. So they've lived in everywhere from Togo, West Africa, to Brussels, to Moscow, Prague. So when I was 15, I went to Prague and then stayed with them, and then London, Ireland, all over the place. So I did a fair amount of traveling before. I think that's part of what got me the
I guess that's where I was going, and I certainly didn't know that was true. But I also feel like, it's such a luxury for anybody who has the opportunity or the resources to see the world. But I just feel like it adds a perspective to everything that we're talking about whenever possible.
Yeah, when I was in Prague when I was 15, it was shortly after communism had fallen, and it was the most depressed. Everybody's face was morose. People had nothing. It was third world country, at least where we were in Czech Republic. And that was the first moment that I realized, not everybody lives in the suburbs, and not everybody has disposable income and 3 meals a day and that kind of thing. And it definitely gives you more of a global perspective. And Save the Children's in 120 countries, which I didn't realize there were 120 countries, but I think next to Coca-Cola, they're in the most countries that you could be in as an organization. And traveling, I think one of the best things, if you can afford it or somehow save up and make it happen, like getting that perspective, going to other countries, seeing how life is on the other side, it just makes you, it kind of endowed me with this responsibility. It's like, life is short, you live here once, you should leave it better than you found it.
Absolutely.
And just writing catchy songs that people can, do that or get married to, or that's all fun.
Right.
But it's like, if you can actually do something that has a lasting relevance and literally save lives on an actual measurable amount, why not do it? And for us, like kids, the thing that kind of hit home with me when I was reading into Save the Children and talking with some of the people that work there was, I put myself in a specific situation. I thought, it's 2 a.m. My son, Copeland, has a temperature of 105. I have like 50 options of what I can do. What do you do, like, if you are in Guatemala? What do you do if you are in El Salvador? What do you do if you are in another 100 countries? and you don't have antibiotics, you don't know what's wrong with him, you know, he's not responsive, and now you're shaking. I mean, there's like, I started processing what would I do if I was in one of these communities, and it'd be sheer panic, and then the mortality rate is sky high. So you know, oh my God, he has the fill in the blank, and our next door neighbor's kid died last month from that, and you can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, to fix it would cost, I think, $1. Like, you know, that $1 will buy enough medicine, you know, for antibiotics or for a net to put over your bed so you're not getting bit by mosquitoes.
That could be as simple as that.
It's that simple. And so our song is, I think, $1.29 on iTunes. So, you know, like I said, we even convinced the label to waive their fee on the song. And so it's as much as money as possible is going directly to Save the Children.
That's so fantastic. Mary Beth, I was just going to ask you, and I don't mean to be negative about this, but do you think that as we're talking about sort of that global awareness, do you think that we as Americans, with the resources that we have and the information, the access to information that we have, do you think that we are as kind of globally aware in that way as we could or should be?
I mean, I think there's a real need to educate ourselves about the reality that people face around the world. We're part of one global village, and I think opportunities like this to work with the Ad Council to tell the story of how kids are affected by health workers around the world is just one way that we can kind of educate ourselves. There are so many ways people can do that. I mean, Save the Children has a child sponsorship product that really helps American families connect with how a kid lives in another country. That's another great way to teach your kids to be global citizens. So it's really important as parents that we do think about how is the next generation viewing the rest of the world. How do we make sure we're building those bridges from a very early age?
Absolutely. Well, guys, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to talk to me about this, to let us hear a little bit of the single. I'm pulling up a comment. My life is in color. We, One Republic fans, are so proud of these guys taking part of something like Save the Children and are so happy to help by downloading Feel Again. I mean, that's a good group of people out there, a good group of fans. Thank you so much, Mary Beth. And Ryan, thank you so much for coming in.
Absolutely,
and,
thanks for having me.
Best of luck with the new album and on your tour and for getting the
you.
word out.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank you.
guys. Keep it going on HuffPost Live. More to come.